Well, welcome everybody to the Fantasy Football War Room podcast. I'm your host James, and with me I have Nick,
How's it going, everybody?
Chris,
Pronto.
and Frank.
Hey now.
Gentlemen, how's it going? It's draft week. Are you guys excited?
Very
Super
excited.
Can smell it.
Counting down the days.
We're there. We're 4 days away. No wait,
Still
it's
too
Tuesday,
far
so
away.
we're 2 days away, and it should be fun. I'm excited. I know we can officially announce that we will be going live on Instagram on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So you guys can tune in with us and ask us any questions or give us your thoughts on some of the picks. I'm sure we're going to give you guys ours, and the more the merrier, of course. And
Yep, so make sure you follow our Instagram. If you're not already, you should be.
that's
James,
right.
what's our tag?
Fantasy Football War Room.
You guys having a good weekend?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
weekend.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Building a shed out back, casual life. Trying to kill
Sounds
the
like
days
fun.
until football.
Sundays aren't the same without football.
No, definitely not.
I think I was watching Washington, New Orleans 2017 on the weekend. I think it was. So it was a good game, man. It was a very good game. I think the Saints pulled it out at the end, but it was a nail biter. Even though I knew what happened, I was still getting excited for it.
Are these recorded on your home VHS or how you?
No, NFL Network was playing it.
Who was that? Jason
Okay.
Campbell?
No, it was Kirk Cousins era.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's forgettable.
You like that?
Was it that game?
No.
Well, today we got. I think this is going to be us talking about a little bit more draft stuff, obviously, since the draft is just around the corner. But we've pretty much exhausted all the first round draft picks. We've gone through everybody there that we think are going to be drafted, and we wanted to bring you guys a little something on some potential draft gold. So we're going to be talking about a few players that we think could possibly break out depending on falling on the right team. They are going to be drafted lower than the first round, obviously, so it won't be probably until day 2, 3. And like I said, if these guys get onto a team that can help them and coach them properly, these guys could potentially be fantasy gold for you later on. So we want you to know about them.
Yep.
So let's get into our list right off the bat, and we're going to start with Chris, and you're going to bring us running back Michael Carter. Go ahead.
Yeah, running back Michael Carter out of the University of North Carolina. He's entering the NFL as a senior, coming out of UNC, ranked as a 3-star prospect. Michael Carter has been shooting up draft boards since the end of the college football season. With back-to-back seasons of 1,000 yards, Carter's 2020 season was his best. He put up 1,245 yards rushing, 9 rushing TDs, averaging a solid 8 yards per carry. Not only was he a performer running the ball, Carter was mildly involved in the passing game, as well as he had 25 receptions for 267 yards and 2 TDs. All this while sharing the workload with this class's RB3 to some RB2. Javonte Williams tells me that Michael Carter is an ultra opportunist who, when given the chance, is going to take advantage of his opportunities. Now, he isn't built to be a workhorse in the NFL. He's most likely going to be a complimentary back. But his ability to create something out of nothing makes him a valuable asset in the NFL. He's probably looking at about 25 to 30 snaps per game early in his career and could see a much bigger role if he develops as a true pass catcher. Currently, his ADP is 211. But pay attention to where he lands, as Carter can be a tremendous value at his current draft position, so don't be afraid to start the QB run in the middle of the second round.
You mean running back run, right? Not
Yeah,
QB
definitely
run?
running back.
Yeah. Did I say QB? Oh,
Yes, you
darn,
did.
man.
Just a bit.
Oh, crap. Well, maybe he can slot him in as a super flex.
You could,
Yeah.
or are you trying to
Don't
confuse
be
us?
afraid to start the running back run in the middle of the second round.
There you go.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I like Michael Carter. I mean, they've been talking so highly of the two backs out of North Carolina. So it's like, 1A, 1B. I mean, Javante's obviously the one. But a lot of good things I've been hearing about Michael Carter. And it also depends on where he goes. I mean, if he fits onto a team where they need one, and I mean he's going to come on as a backup to start with. He probably won't be the starter anywhere. I don't see a team right now that needs that can bring him in as a starter yet. But I mean, I think he'll be a solid
piece.
Yeah, I think he'll be solid, and I think I mean this is the guy that you want to look for on your teams for as your handcuff, because if that main guy goes down, this guy gets the ball to start. Who knows what he could do? He could win you a championship if he ends up playing the rest of a season. He's got that kind of skill there. So
yep, exactly.
Let's move on to number 2. And you know what? I'm glad, Nick, you chose this player because we haven't talked about tight ends at all aside from Mr. Kyle Pitts. And I'm going to try to say his name. Let's hope I get this right. Tight end Pat Freiermuth?
Freiermuth.
Sure, that one. Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, so like you said, we haven't talked about tight ends, so I thought it would be a good idea because, tight ends are still a position on a lot of fantasy teams, and I thought it would be valuable. But Pat Freiermuth's measurables at 6'5", 6'5", and 260 pounds is right in the range of what we normally see a first-round tight end to be. However, with the likes of, like you said, Kyle Pitts this year, who has just overpowered the whole class, unfortunately his stock has fallen and he's probably not going to be in that first round. As well as his season-ending injury in his last year of college to his shoulder, that has also brought down his stock as well. But his prior 2 seasons before being hurt in 2020, he had 300 yards and 8 touchdowns in his first year and over 500 yards and 7 touchdowns in his second year, which allowed him to actually break the Penn State record for the most TD receptions by a tight end. And he beat the likes of Mike Gesicki, Jesse James, and Kyle Carter, and other Penn State tight ends. He moves in a similar way to Travis Kelce, where he uses his momentum and his shifts in and out of breaks to gain separation from the defenders, and that's going to be allowed him to get be a valuable target for his quarterback in the free space. He'll be a PPR style tight end where he won't get a lot of yardage, but he's going to be on the and he's going to field enough, given enough receptions and targets because he can find that separation. His frame allows him to be one of the most dangerous types of red zone targets that a quarterback would look for because he's so big and he has such sure hands that it'll be a trusted person in the end zone that quarterbacks will look his way. As well, his ability to run block is, I know it's not a fantasy stat, but in coaches' eyes, that's what coaches are looking for in a tight end, and that will allow him to be on the field as a 3-down tight end, and that just gives him more chances to get plays. He will be a reliable pass catcher in the next level. He has the ability to use his strength to break tackles, and he'll win in the short and intermediate areas as well as the goal line areas. So using all these different things that he has, although he doesn't have a top speed like, Kyle Pitts does right now, he still uses his speed and his movement to create separation and find ways to make the defense miss and cause a mismatch. Some of the teams that are right now that are looking at him are the Jaguars, the Chargers, the Colts, the Jets, the Titans, and the Texans. And I think if he falls to one of these teams in the draft, he could make an impact in his first year because all these teams are tight end needy right now. And especially with his rush blocking and his ability to play in that end zone and be a valuable target there, he could make an impact right away in that first year. But in PPR formats, I mean, he's probably going to be a late round pick if you're drafting him in fantasy rookie drafts. And I think at that late round at value for what he can potentially be in his career and potentially this year as a sleeper type of a late round player this year, I think it's a solid bet. And I think over his career, he's going to be a valuable fantasy player.
Nice, yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely going to be a guy that some teams, depending on where he goes, but if he goes to one of those teams there, he'll definitely be I won't say top 10 tight end this year, but
Not this year, no.
I mean, again, we've already said this. After the first 4 or 5 tight ends, it's a crapshoot anyway. So, could he be in that range there? Of course he can. So
not this year, but definitely in the next year's coming, he can get there.
I just want to point out that I'm pretty sure Chris was doing a TikTok while you were talking there because I was trying not to laugh while he was going like this for a good few minutes there. Just thought that was really good.
I mean, hey.
Can't wait to see that one on TikTok, Chris. What's that handle? Oh, he's on.
At FFWR Chris on the TikTok.
There you go.
Beauty.
All right, let's get into our next one. And at number 3, I'm going to be talking about wide receiver Seth Williams. And not many of you go, this draft class is a huge wide receiver heavy draft class. There are tons of good wide receivers coming out. And so a lot of guys are here that are going to get lost. Seth Williams is a 6'3", 211-pound wide receiver out of Auburn. He was projected early on to be a top pick. Some had him in the top 10. Some had him in the 10 to 15 range. Like, it's very dependent on what he's done in the season. I'm not going to talk to you too much about his stats throughout college because they are a little bit skewed with, Auburn wasn't the greatest of teams. And I mean, he was the go-to guy and they made him that. But I'm just going to talk to you about him and his strengths. And some weaknesses, obviously, because there's a reason why he's not in the first round. Some of his strengths are that he's outstanding size and length with flashes of playmaking traits. He's faster than he looks once his legs get going underneath him. He's got adequate deep ball tracking. He has flashes impressive wins with size and ball skills in the red zone. Definitely a red zone threat for most teams. He's got good in-air agility to rise, turn, and secure it with ball control. His wingspan and catch radius are like a condor when he's fully extended. And he's able to drag cornerbacks for extra yardage after the catch. So he's big. He's 6'3". He's a monster. He's got 211 pounds on him. He'll probably get a little bit more once he gets in the weight room with these actual coaches. So, I mean, he's definitely a red zone target that Auburn like to use. Now, of course, like I said, there are some drawbacks to what he has. Some of his weaknesses, he only had one career touchdown in 8 games versus LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. Unfortunately, those are pretty good teams, and that kind of put a knock on him because it's like, well, he couldn't beat the good cornerback, so that doesn't help. He doesn't present to the quarterback like he wants the ball. He's lethargic on routes and that are easy to read, and he lacks the separation. A big knock on him was the fact that the separation isn't there. But he was really good on the catches when he was 50-50 balls. He rarely leverages man coverage away from the break point. He has tons of contested catch challenges, but he has a poor success rate. And he doesn't have the getaway quickness after the catch. So, I've got him draft prediction around round 5. There is upside in Williams' game. There's no doubt that he has the size and ability to make receptions in the NFL, but he'll need to be coached up and show significant improvements on getting there. So it all depends on the team that he goes to. I think someone's going to take a flyer on him, hoping that he can be that. Will he help you this year in fantasy? I'm going to say not this year in per se, unless he gets to a team where he becomes the number 2. But I would definitely keep an eye on him. Some injuries and or deep dynasty leagues, this guy could be a guy that maybe the year after, year 2, 3, he could perform, especially with some coaching on him.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely one of the higher targeted wide receivers in Devy drafts last season.
Yeah, he dropped a little bit again.
First, yeah.
He the COVID kind of hurt some teams there and whatnot. I mean, his stats weren't the greatest. That's why I wasn't going by stats. I'm going by overall of what people saw from before to now. I mean, he was projected top 10 at one point, and his name was all over the place. And he just And he's a big body. I mean, big bodies that can go, and he's pretty fast for the size of him. He's not, I mean, elite fast, but he's got some speed to him. He can't break away. I think that's a big thing in NFL is you need to have breakaway speed, which if he doesn't have, he's got to figure out a new way to make it work. So.
Yeah, and once he gets away from Bo Nix, and I mean the system that they ran with Gus Malzahn wasn't that favorable to the offense either way in Auburn, but I see what you're saying there. I agree with all that.
All right, let's move to number 4 on our list. I like this guy too. I've heard some good things out of him. Frank, you're going to be talking to us about Kyle Trask.
Yeah, before I talk about Kyle Trask, I just want to remind our listeners to, if you want more info on all these guys, if you go back to episodes 15 through 20, we went through all the running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. So there's a lot more in-depth information there about all these guys. So check it out. Now, Kyle Trask, 5 quarterbacks are expected to be drafted in the first round of the 2021 draft, but Kyle Trask is going to be one of the more viable options as a future starter in this strong class of quarterbacks. He's coming off a breakout season that helped him finish 4th in Heisman voting. He's got size, he's got the strong arm and accuracy to be successful in the NFL, but he's projected to be an early to mid-round second pick. First of all, because he's, how deep this draft is, and secondly, it's because he's more of a prototypical pro pocket passer. It's a lot of P's. So he'll need some system support and development to become a complete passer. He took advantage of a great situation with some great targets in Florida, like Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney. You might have heard of those guys. There's a number of teams that would have been interested in taking a potential future starting quarterback in the first round, but their picks were just too low to justify making the reach. So other teams might look at Trask as a guy who can take over in the very near future. I'm pretty sure Washington will be addressing the quarterback position in this draft, but at 19 overall in the first round, a top 5 quarterback will be out of reach. But Washington has 2 reasonable picks on night 2 to land them, so I think he'd be a pretty good fit in Washington. The Bears went with Andy Dalton on a 1-year deal worth $10 million, maybe knowing that they might be out of luck in the first round as well. So Trask's style should have some appeal to Matt Nagy and offensive coordinator Bill Lazor. Dalton, who played for Lazor in Cincinnati, was a similar type of prospect that Trask is, and the Bengals took him in the second round in 2011, so you might see something similar there. Steelers, they're squeezing out one more season out of Big Ben, at least, despite his signs of massive physical decline coming back from that elbow injury. His arm strength has been very limited, and the wear down should continue next year. So going after Trask as a transition piece, would make a lot of sense. The Patriots could be another option here. They should be mentioned with every quarterback, to be honest. But at 15 overall, unless they trade up, they're probably going to join Washington and the Bears and being out of luck on one of those top guys. If they like Trask enough to be worth a second-round pick, they shouldn't hesitate to take him for a few picks, just ahead of Washington and the Bears. And the last other place I might see him going could be the Falcons. They might be thinking of taking an upside quarterback like Trey Lance at number 4, but with the 49ers likely taking the third quarterback off the board at number 3. In my opinion, I believe that the Falcons would be better off taking Kyle Pitts and then adding Trask early in round 2. So Trask can operate well in Arthur Smith's offense with the targets they have a wide receiver, and especially if they end up with Kyle Pitts, I think they'd be set for years to come. I think if he ends up on any of those teams, maybe except for Atlanta, he has a very good chance to be named the starter at some point in his rookie season, whether it's due to injury or just poor quarterback play, notably in Chicago. And he could have some early success as a fantasy quarterback in the second half of the upcoming season.
Are you trying to say that Chicago doesn't have a good starting quarterback already?
Well, you would know more than anybody.
I've been saying that for weeks. I don't think they signed a starting quarterback. They signed a backup quarterback to start. That's what they did. So,
I agree.
But the guy had better numbers than all their other starting quarterbacks.
Well, they have a history of backup quarterbacks, so this is what they do. But no, Greg, Frank, I think that's great. I saw a lot of boards that had Kyle Trask potentially first round to Pittsburgh late. I know that changed recently, and he's kind of dropped a little bit in there. And but yeah, I mean, a second round pick to one of those teams there that needs a QB, that he could be a shot in the dark. I don't think he'll start this season. I think he needs a season underneath someone to kind of show him the ropes. Again, a Big Ben, a Cam Newton. I mean, Cam's different style, but a veteran quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like you said in Washington. I mean, those could be things that could help, give him a better year in year 2 when he becomes that starter. And you saw the numbers he put up, so I think that's good. I'm curious to see where he goes.
Yeah, and you see it all the time, like guys like this that just, because of circumstances end up becoming a starter. That they weren't planning on starting him, but an injury here, Big Ben goes down, which is not out of the norm these days. He goes down and he comes in and tears it up. It happens all the time, so it could happen to him. So let's see.
All right, let's move on to our next player. And Chris, you're going to be talking about a guy you've talked about for weeks. I believe he's your favorite wide receiver coming into the draft, Dyami Brown. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably my favorite back end wide receiver coming into the draft. I think Jamar Chase has got to be everyone's favorite wide receiver coming into this one. But yeah, Dyami Brown, another Tar Heel for me. I love the offense over the past 2 seasons, and I could easily see quarterback Sam Howell be a day 1 draft pick in next year's entry draft. Now, onto the guy I was hyped on coming into the season after his first 1,000-yard season in 2019. A guy who doesn't get a great amount of coverage from the pundits, but to me is a top 5, possibly even top 3 wide receiver in the class, Mr. Dyami Brown. He coming in at 6'1", 195 pounds. He's fearless in the middle of the field. He gives great effort as a blocker. He's a dog when he has the ball, a competitive player who won't be easy to take down. His ability to stretch defenses ended up in him averaging 20 yards per reception over the last 2 seasons, which is a number that when you see it as a fantasy manager, just gets you in your feels. If he ends up in an air raid offense, Dyami could end up being one of the wide receivers in the draft that you won't end up spending high draft capital on, but will still end up finishing as a top end wide receiver out of the rest of the guys in the class. His one real knock is that his route tree in college was simplified, so he wasn't running overly difficult routes. So he might lack an ability to grasp the complex playbooks of the NFL. But given the opportunity, Dyami could see steady wide receiver 2 production for years to come. His average draft position right now is about 208 in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts, which puts him at around the 8th wide receiver taken. So it'll be a true value pick in return for any manager who's able to draft him.
Yeah, I mean, you sold me on him, I think, a couple weeks ago. So I've been looking for him in different drafts here and there, and I definitely will for the future drafts to come. I mean, obviously, again, depending which team he goes to, and whatnot will change things as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. But
yeah, one of the most recent mocks I've seen actually have him coming up into the first round with Green Bay taking him in that late first. So he's definitely climbed up draft boards. He's gonna be an interesting pick. I mean, he's gonna fit an offense like Green Bay, an offense like KC, an offense like New Orleans. One of those high-powered throw-first offenses, because his strength is stretching the field, getting behind defenders. I think his 40 was a 4.46 or a 4.44, so he's got the top-end speed, and he's just an all-around hard-working guy, man. So he's definitely a guy that I'm targeting, but knowing that I have these 3 other sharks staring at me right now, it's not going to be easy. They're not going to make it easy for me, and I'm probably going to have to reach, so...
I mean, you have him in almost all of your dynasties anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to pick him where I could.
Chris, everything you just said there made total sense, except for the part where you said mock drafts have Green Bay taking a wide receiver. I still don't think sense, eh? I don't think anyone can make sense of what Green Bay will ever do. So I don't know if I can believe that one, but I mean, yes, every mock draft I've seen has them taking a wide receiver.
That's why it's a mock draft.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I think my chances of saying they're taking a kicker are just as high as saying that they're taking a wide receiver. So, but yes, I like it. Let's move on to our next one. We're gonna hit up another wide receiver here. One we talked a little bit about in the past episode, but we didn't get too much into him. Frank, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Go ahead.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown's a guy I'm pretty high on. I got him in a couple of my Debbie leagues. He's put up great numbers in each of his 3 seasons at USC, and he's proven that he could be trusted as a go-to guy. In 2020, he showed his ability to produce as the number 1 guy, catching 41 passes, 478 yards, and 7 touchdowns in a COVID-shortened season. There's no doubt if he played a full season, his draft stock would have just skyrocketed. He moved around a bit during his college career, showing he can be a problem at any position, whether it's in the slot or on the outside. But it seems likely in the NFL he'd be more effective as a slot receiver. He's a quality route runner, and he saw nothing but success at the college level for all 3 seasons. If his college career is any indication, his consistency as a threat in the passing game, it's going to reward fantasy owners week after week. A lot of his fantasy outlook for this season depends on where he lands, pretty much like everybody else. I'm very positive he'll be an excellent fantasy receiver, but his ultimate landing spot's going to will determine how soon he becomes how soon he becomes an impact in fantasy. You definitely see some solid playing time if he were drafted by my Lions. They could use his skill in the slot to help Jared Goff out in the passing game. He'd pair nicely with T.J. Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, and he could be a spark in that offense. Washington football team could also definitely utilize his skill set. Wide receiver is a big position, and they're almost certainly going to have to address it in the draft. They've got a big time need a wide receiver. He's got the versatility to play on the inside or on the outside, and then pairing him with Terry McLaurin could cause some significant matchup problems for opposing defenses. And you're talking about two very talented wide receivers at the top of your wide receiving core. Jerry Jones better be taking a cornerback if that happens. One last spot I think would be good for his outlook in fantasy is the New England Patriots. N'Keal Harry hasn't been cutting it, and Edelman just retired. They just picked up Nelson Aguilar, but the Patriots could still use a weapon at wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown could slide right in and take over as the next great Pats slot receiver. He'd be a solid target for Cam Newton. He's not going to be the most highly rated wide receiver out of this draft class, but there's something to be said for a player who never had a bad year in college.
Yeah, I liked him in college. I got him in a few debies as well, and I mean, he was rated a little higher, I believe, in 2019 than last year. But I mean, it's so hard with this COVID, what came in, and these guys, I mean, a lot of people saying they dropped, but did they really? They didn't get to play the same. It was just a different atmosphere. So it's really curious to see what's going to happen in this draft with these guys and where they go and how well they develop. Hopefully they get a better training camp than the rookies last year, which could change things as well. So but yeah, no, I like him. I'm curious to see where he goes, like you said, Frank. And the only problem with that New England situation is that it's not Tom Brady throwing him the ball to make him that great wide receiver. It's Cam Newton. So that kind of scares me. But I mean, the other places wouldn't be so bad.
Yep, true.
All right, let's move on next. We're going to a running back here. Nick is going to be talking to us about Kenneth Gainwell. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Mr. Kenneth Gainwell, rumored to be called the Memphis Wonder. Kenneth Gainwell is one of the most explosive backs that we have seen and was among the nation's top dual threat running backs in 2019 prior to him deciding to opt out in 2020 due to COVID. He did have pretty much only one big year in college, which was in 2019. But in 2019, not only was that his biggest year, he outperformed a very big running back in the NFL right now in the name of Antonio Gibson, who is the main running back on the Washington football team. He not only outperformed Gibson, but he also controlled that backfield in Memphis, and he outtouched Gibson 231 to 33 in rushing attempts and 51 to 38 in receptions. His final stats for that 2019 year was 1,500 yards rushing, 13 TDs, 610 yards receiving, and another 3 TDs in the receiving. Kenneth Gainwell he's a threat to score basically anytime he touches the ball with his explosiveness, his strength to break through tackles, his effective balance, which allows him to maintain his ground and gain more yardage, and as well as his gifted ability in receiving makes him an insane dual threat running back that when he uses his awareness to manipulate the defenders and as well as his vision to gain the holes and the space that he needs to break free, it's just he can create plays on a dime, and that's the type of player that a lot of teams like. Unfortunately, his first year in the NFL, I don't see him much more than a flex sort of option. He's going to be more of a change of pace type of guy, a pass catching running back. And I feel like in PPR formats, it's going to be great because he'll get those targets, and he's as well. Like I said, he can make a play and break free at any moment. But it could be a slippery slope. But I do see him having an average year in his first year. He can definitely, his comparison is sort of like a Naheem Hines, where he's going to have that same style of a play like he does in Indianapolis, where he's the change of pace, the third down guy, the pass catching running back. And I think his best fits in the NFL right now are, again, to the Jaguars, the Broncos, the Bengals, and the Titans. All teams that could really use the running back depth, and this will allow him to come into that type of role and be an impact right away, as because he's going to take away that pressure from the main backs, give them a little breather, be that change of pace, still be able to create plays, and that will be favorable in coaches' eyes as, maybe I'll give him a few more chances and a few more chances. And like we said before, I mean, he can break into that top running back spot if there's an injury, if there's COVID-related issues. So he's one of those running backs that you can draft him a little later in rounds. He's not going to be, too late, I don't think, depending on where he goes, of course. But definitely a little bit more of a later type running back in drafts. And, I mean, if he catches that break and he builds up on his frame and his skills even more in the NFL and develops even more, I mean, he can easily be a 3-down type of back in the NFL.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of good things about him. The latest I've heard is he's being linked to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
I've heard that a few times. I know poor James Robinson and all his numbers there, but they're saying that Mayer likes him and he's read up on him, and I'm seeing that they have so much draft capital there in Jacksonville that they're saying they might as well just go get a running back. If they get someone a little earlier, they might take a chance on a Javonte early in round 2, but if they decide to wait a little bit, Gainwell could be a guy that you take a little bit later. So we'll have to see, but I like that.
Nick, just wondering, where do you got him ranked as out of the running back class? Where do you got Gainwell ranked? What RB?
Probably right now, I got him probably 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
probably
Harris,
where I have him right now. Harris,
Etienne, Williams.
Devontae,
I can't make it 4. Sorry, 4. 4.
Is that a
4 is
claw?
probably yeah.
Scared some of our guys away.
This is still.
All right. Is 4 Michael
is
Carter?
Michael Carter, maybe 5 Trey Sermon, and then Gainwell. Is that how you got it?
Yeah, exactly. Somewhere in that range, at least.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And our last player that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to be talking about Rhamondre Stevenson. And,
Rhamondre, isn't it?
oh, I spelt that wrong.
Oh,
wow.
my
Rhamondre Stevenson. Yes.
Don't tell me I gotta start fasting.
Stevenson.
I gotta eat here.
Oh, deal.
Oh, man. All right. Rhamondre. What did I write? Rhamondre Stevenson. All right. He's
Rhamondre Stevenson.
Wow, Jay. That's impressive.
Okay. Well,
Jeez.
at least I got you guys laughing, and I'm sure everyone else will be too. 6 foot tall running back, 230-pound monster out of Oklahoma. This guy is fresh because he didn't do much running while he was there, unfortunately. He was suspended for the end of the 2019 season and for most of the 2020 season. But when he came back, he was definitely looking like a good runner. They never really gave him the ball to be the lead guy there, as they had a few other running backs there. But with what he did, he led them in rushing in the games that he did play. He's a wrecking brawl of a runner. He's burly, thick frame, and punishing demeanor clearly takes a toll on the defenses as the game rolls on. He is at his best when he's a downhill runner, gathering momentum to attack the second level. Stevenson can act as a change of pace bully or a quality third down backup to a team that values the downhill power football. He's very little wear and tear, like I said. He only had 165 carries at Oklahoma. Requires legitimate run support from the cornerbacks to slow him down. Takes a lot of guys. When he gets them on his back, he carries them a couple of yards too, so he'll get you those extra yardage. He's definitely a goal line threat to go through a bunch of holes and make holes himself. His potential late game option to help close out games, because of the fact that he's so bruising, will definitely hurt teams. Hands are soft enough to work out of the backfield, and he has size and power to keep his quarterback protected. So those are the definite good things. Obviously, he does have some things he needs to work on. He needs the ball tucked tight to his frame to prevent fumbles. He's limited to one cut ability due to his tight hips. He loses forcefulness when his feet are slowed or he slips to the outside. He runs with blurred vision as an inside runner. I've heard that a few times where his vision's a little bit off and he doesn't seem to see the holes that he needs to see. He needs to improve at setting up blockers. He's inconsistent in keeping his feet under him on his cuts. Yeah, he did fall a lot, slipping, especially when there wasn't rain out there. And he'll need additional technique and work to handle blitz pickups. So I got him as a draft projected late third, early fourth. His comparison right now is to Gus Edwards, Baltimore. So Stevenson is best suited to be a backup for now, but he could develop into a quality starter in time. Most power runners don't have soft hands like Stevenson does. He eclipsed 100 rushing yards in nearly a third of his games at Oklahoma, despite never really having the true workhorse title. He has the makings of a reliable three-down back in the right system. At the end of the day, all these guys we just talked about, it's all the right system. It's all the right coaching. They're obviously not day one starters. They're not the flashy good players that you're looking for on that day one, but these are guys that could turn into some pretty good gems. We've talked about it. Aaron Jones was a 5th-round pick. James Robinson wasn't even drafted. How many wide receivers? TJ Husmanzada, the ones we spoke about before, 7th, 6th round that turned into superstars. So just because on paper and what you see in their techniques aren't exactly showing them as the best that they are. I mean, if you get them into a room and they have the right coaching and the right system, these guys could be true good players and they could definitely help your fantasy. So don't sleep on these guys. Definitely keep track of them. The running backs in particular as your handcuffs for later on. The wide receivers you could take deep or wait for them on waivers and see for later on. But we just wanted to bring you guys some players that we thought could help you guys out.
Especially Rhamondre Stevenson.
I'm never going to let that one down. Okay.
Oh, man.
I don't know what I was writing. Maybe I was thinking of something else. But anyways, all right. Let's go into a little bit of some draft news and rumors. And I've been hearing a lot of things going on lately with the draft coming up. So the first one I have here is the 49ers, the smokescreen. Are they taking Mac Jones? Are they taking Trey Lance? Are they taking Justin Fields? Do you guys want to take a pick? Where are we going here? Each of you take a pick on where they're drafting.
I can go first here. I think Las Vegas has the odds favorite to be Mac Jones as the 3rd pick. Personally, I think it's going to be Trey Lance.
Okay. Nick?
Just like in our mock draft, I'm sticking with they should be taking Justin Fields. I
Frank?
like the connection with Kyle Shanahan that he's had before too. So
Okay. Frank?
That's a
Yeah,
good eye.
Mac Jones is a favorite. I'm calling up Vegas. I'm going to put some money on Justin Fields.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you were going to call
I
up and
thought
put
he was
some
going
money
to say,
on
yeah,
Mac
I'm going Mac
Jones.
Jones.
I'm torn between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. I'm hearing a lot of Trey Lance slipping in there as well right now. I personally don't think it'll be Justin Fields. He's dropped on a lot of draft boards, and I think he's going to be that guy that's going to go down for some reason. I don't know why. I think he's the number 2 quarterback in this year's class, but for some reason there's a knock against him, and it looks like he's going down the draft board, and some team is going to get him late, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Carolina at 8. That's a hot take for you guys, okay?
Just came out this week that he's been battling epilepsy, no?
Yep.
With that one? Yeah.
Yeah,
That could
battling
cause him to
epilepsy.
drop.
Could have been something, could be, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But that'll be an interesting one. I'm curious to see. Let's see here. We have the Dolphins and Lions have been fielding offers for the number 6 and number 7 overall picks. Rumors are that the Cardinals are looking to trade up to get a superstar wide receiver. Some have them trying to get the Lions number 7 or number 6 from the Dolphins to maybe draft Chase or Jalen Waddle to give Murray as much potential to let him ball out this season. I also heard if they don't move up, that there's potential that they take Travis Etienne or Najee Harris at 16 to give him a star running back as well on that team there. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that they should trade up and go get the wide receiver, or do you think taking the running back is better? Do you even think they're going to do this at all?
I think it'd be silly to trade up for a wide receiver, like if they can get a good deal. But I don't think the Lions or would you say the Falcons or the Dolphins? I don't think either of them are going to be trading down for wholesale. So the wide receiver class is so deep they can get, not much of a drop off at where they stand. I think they're better off going running back.
I hope they don't go running back. I don't want any running back in that system.
You
I
want
think
so
it's
much space.
sewers. It's sewers the value, man. So
Oh man.
I don't want to. Nope.
That's not because you own so much. What's his name there? Is it Chase?
Javonte?
No.
Oh, Chase
Arizona running
Edmonds.
back. You
Well,
got Chase.
even Edmonds, right? Like they brought in Connor. Like even Edmonds. I mean, not a big fan of the running game there in particular to begin with. So, I mean, any of these big name rookies that you're going to spend high draft capital on in the rookie drafts, if they end up going to Arizona, man, it's not going to be worth the where you're taking them.
Yeah.
Plus, Arizona already got a pretty full wide receiver room, don't they? I mean,
It's just Hopkins.
So yeah.
You got guys like
They
AJ
have
Green like
they
that.
have a room of wide receivers. They're not very good wide receivers.
It's just Nuke.
but
Fitzgerald's
I-
supposed to retire. Kirk and AJ Green. That's it, right?
And then
Andy Isabella.
but yeah.
I'm
I don't know if
hearing
I'd call
that
that a
they.
stacked room.
Well,
No, I wouldn't.
full.
From what I've read about what Arizona wants to do is they want to ball out and they want to get him the best offensive weapons they can, and apparently they're willing to spend to move up to get Chase or Waddle, and that's what they're looking at and who they're targeting. So I mean, if you depending on what the price is, obviously like you said, Frank, it's not going to be very
wholesale.
cheap price, but I mean, could you imagine Jamar Chase and DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray throwing to them?
Honestly,
Insane.
I'd rather if I was at Arizona take an O lineman because Murray got banged up last year. If he's looking at his ear hole, he's not going to be making any passes.
I know, but the option, like we were talking about the Cowboys at 10 trying to take Kyle Pitts, they don't need to take a tight end. But I mean, to have the versatility to say that you have another tight end there would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? That type of tight end with that offense is just,
Depends how much you got to trade
building
up to
it.
get him.
We'll have to see. What else do I have here? I've got the last thing I have here is what about the Atlanta Falcons in that 1.04? We've talked about it. Do you guys think they're going to trade it, or are they going to take Kyle Pitts, or do they swerve everybody and take a quarterback?
I really don't know what they're gonna do. There's so many options there for them. They could take that quarterback knowing that Matt Ryan probably won't last too long. They could take Kyle Pitts and have that secure bet and make that offense even better. Or they could trade it because they don't necessarily need to take those two high offensive players, right? But at the same time, I have no idea. I mean, if they get the right deal, I think they move it. Or I see them going Pitts, if anything. I don't really see them taking the quarterback. I think they believe in Matt Ryan right now, and they rather bolster the offense more instead of taking the quarterback.
I think they should go QB.
I think whatever happens, that's where the draft's going to start this year. We already know the first three picks are going to go quarterback. But it's that fourth pick is basically, that's where the trading could start. That's where we could go a fourth quarterback. That's where we could get Kyle Pitts. Like, it's going to be, that's where the excite factor jumps in. So I'm looking forward to when we get to that fourth pick. And we'll be live talking about that on our Instagram, and we'll be able to see who was right. But I agree with Chris. I think it should be quarterback. I think they should... I think at 4, it could be Justin Fields. Like if Justin Fields falls at 4, you take Justin Fields and you laugh on the way there, right? So I think that's why they haven't been traded yet, because they see the potential of possibly a quarterback dropping there, and that's what's going to happen. So
Yeah, might never be in the position again to acquire top 4 QB like this, right? So having a Kyle Pitts as that offense is nice, but having a franchise QB that can sit a year behind Matt Ryan is probably better.
I agree.
yeah. But of course, what we think is going to happen doesn't always end up happening in the draft. So we're looking forward to seeing.
Our mock is already out the window.
Yeah, with a few trades that came through.
Oh,
But we knew that was going to happen. We knew some trades were going to come
Yeah.
in and kind of change things. So, but anyways, that's all I have. Any of you guys have any extra rumors you want to kick out there before we close the show here? Nope.
I don't
Nope.
think so.
Good.
Not much here.
All right. Well, anyways, guys, that's our show for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. We can finally say that we're almost done with draft talk, and we can begin our potential season stuff next week. So we'll be looking forward to that. Please follow us on Instagram at the Fantasy Football War Room, on YouTube at the Fantasy Football War Room Podcast. Our next episode will drop on Thursday, and we're going to be bringing you guys a very special episode, which we will not be talking any draft whatsoever, and you're definitely going to want to check it out because it's going to be a fun one, because we will be going live on Thursday night on our Instagram during the draft. We'll be bringing you draft coverage. So thank you guys again for listening, and have yourselves a good night.
Ciao.